Welcome, podcast listeners and viewers, and thank you for joining us here on the Lightwave Digest podcast. And we will be your hosts, bringing you the news, reviews, and interviews on all things Lightwave and beyond. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Episode 3. I am Cageman. So today, I am actually joined by our producer, Shabazzy.
Hi.
So the reason why Shabazzy is sitting here is because Andrew has catched a cold and could not be part of this recording. However, he is going to be part of the interview with Deuce. So stay around for that.
Yes, do stay around for that. It's really good.
So Shabazzy, nice to have a new voice. So what have you been up to during the last month? Have you done anything fun, or have something cool happened, or seen anything cool?
Well, today, this month, first of all, let me just say thank you very much for having me here today, and hi guests and hi listeners and viewers. The story that I have today to tell you guys is an experience that I had earlier this month, the month of August. Do you remember when Lightwave announced, or Lightwave Digital announced that they purchased Lightwave back in April?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, they launched the website in May, I think it was. They were saying that they were opening up early access to buying Lightwave with different packages. And one of the deals that they gave, in addition to the software, was the option to access some free shares from them for long-term users as a way of saying thank you, as well as some merch. Well, I got in on that. I jumped in on that on the final day that they offered the deal for, and I made my purchase. And in August, I received an email from Lightwave Digital asking me to confirm my details for legal purposes to get the shares registered to me, which was great. So I clicked on the link in the email, and I got sent to the website to put my details in, which I did, and submitted the form. However, when I submitted the form, I didn't get a confirmation page to tell me that I'd actually submitted it successfully. And I thought that was a bit weird, because once you clicked it, it took you back to the Lightwave 3DX website homepage, which I thought was, have I actually submitted this properly? Has something gone wrong? You know what I'll do? I'll check my emails. Maybe they've sent an email to my account to confirm it. Check my email. Nothing. All right. What's happening here? So I thought, well, maybe I'm not the only one who's had this issue. I'll go into Discord and have a check on Discord to see if anybody else has had this issue. And when I went onto Discord, I didn't get the information that I required, but there were people who were talking about the email as well. But they were showing concerns about the security aspects of submitting this information, given the issues that are currently being had, which we'll get into later, with regards to the Lightwave Digital service right now. So I thought, okay, well, I'm not getting any information to solve my issue. Let me send in an email to Lightwave Digital, telling them of my concerns. So that's exactly what I did. And within 30 minutes of me sending that email to them, I got a response back from Lightwave Digital telling me that I had actually sent it. They have actually received my form, and that they had looked into the issue with the acknowledgement.
Nice.
And I thought to myself, all of this happened within half an hour of me sending you this email? That's amazing. I mean, there's such a huge difference from the last days of Lightwave when it belonged to NewTek, where if you sent anything, if you tried to contact customer services from NewTek, you'd be lucky if you heard anything ever, really. But the new company seems to be taking it really quite seriously. And I'm really quite encouraged by that. So it was a very nice experience to have. I mean, it was a bit scary to begin with, getting the email and not getting the response, the acknowledgement page. But, knowing that you could actually reach a human being and actually get a response in next to no time, that really put a lot of encouragement with the new faith in the new company with me. And so I'm quite pleased about that.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. It's very nice, actually. Nice experience. I hope they continue it on, actually, because I think we need that kind of encouragement as users. We need to know that you guys have got our back, and you seem to be showing that.
I actually got to remember a thing here right now when you told this story, was that Johnny OG, he contacted me on Discord to say, hey, can you do a test for me? Can you log into your LightWave account on the new web site, and can you try to export your invoice as a PDF? And I said, okay, let's do that. And I did that, got the PDF. I sent him the PDF, and he's like, okay, cool, it works. Thank you very much.
So things are happening on the back end as well, is it?
Yeah, that was just a test to test something. It was a while ago, but yeah, I just want to reiterate with that example that it feels like a new company.
Yes, it definitely does.
With the communication.
Absolutely, it does seem like they're very, very proactive on getting things done behind the scenes. So when the end of in the fourth quarter, we should see some big changes, and hopefully, they're going to blow our socks off when they actually do open their doors properly. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what the future brings with those guys.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I also had a bit of a nose around the old forums on NewTek, and came across Eric Al's repository of LightWave and YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how this guy's managed to do it, but he's got like a whole host of information on LightWave that he's collated over the years, and it's an absolute goldmine. It really is. And we'll put a link in the description for anybody who wants to access those, that forum post, so they can actually see all the stuff that he's got. But I highly recommend that they do, because the contributions that guy has made to the LightWave user community has been absolutely phenomenal. So I take my hat off to you, Eric Ols. Thank you so much for your work over the years. You are a true champion of LightWave. Thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, wholeheartedly. He's been doing this for so many years as well, and he's been sticking to it. So it's cool that he's been, he's still doing it. And thank you very much, Rikals.
Yes, absolutely. I can't believe he's still up there. And what about you? You been up to anything?
Well, I've actually been having a vacation. And playing games mostly. Apparently there was a SIGGRAPH, which I totally missed. I've seen some posts about it on Discord, about certain things going on there, but in most cases I just haven't really been looking at what's going on or what has happened at SIGGRAPH. So I have lots of stuff to catch up on when it comes to new stuff going on in the 3D world. And another cool thing was that, I told this story in the last episode that my hoodie that I received, it was one of those, where the logo was capped at the top, right? Both on I think it was both on the front and the back side. It looked weird, at least it didn't look right. And then all of a sudden, I just got a new hoodie sent to me, and I was like, "Oh, what is this?" Because it was like a package, and I was like. And I looked at the package. I haven't ordered anything, and I see it's from some German company. And I was like, okay, let's open a new hoodie. Oh, it's a fixed hoodie. It's actually a proper hoodie. So now I have what I call a collector's item, which is the one that is broken.
You've got two hoodies now to display on your wall of fame right now.
Yeah. So one is the one that is sort of sacred that I will never wear, and that is the one that is broken, because that one can actually, who knows, maybe the price for those can go up as a collector's item. I don't know.
But yeah, so it's I'm glad that you managed to enjoy your vacation. But shall we move on to the news?
Yeah, let's move on to the news.
Okay, and here we are at the news section that we are going to cover. I have found a couple of stories that I think would be of interest to some people. In case you've missed it, here's something that might be of use to some earlier Lightwave users from 2015 and earlier, and who have taken advantage of the new offer to jump onto Lightwave 2020 and are trying to familiarize themselves with it. I came across a post for LightWave Salvation. He put a post on his website and on Twitter on the 24th of June this year, saying that he had put a new tutorial video out on his Buy Me a Coffee account, where fans can support him for the efforts that he's made. And because Anthony Hall, who is also known as LightWave Salvation, does an awful lot of stuff for Lightwave over the years, he's been championing Lightwave from the days where where Lightwave was at its height, to the dark times during Lightwave, and he just continued to work on Lightwave and push it and promote it in every aspect of it. And this is one of his latest things that he's done. He's put out a tutorial that I found very, very useful. It's a tutorial that shows how to transfer scenes from Lightwave 2015 all the way over to Lightwave 2020. And I can honestly say that I learned a few things from that, which I thought I knew, but I didn't. One of the things that he showed was some UV updates in 2020, which I was unaware of. I'm not going to give you too much information on that, because please go check it out. We'll put a link in the description to let people know how to find out more about it and check out the video. Also, when you do a transfer over from Lightwave 2015 over 2020, there can be a lighting issue, and he shows you how to fix that, as well as gives you some tips on how to get better usage out of VPR. I thought I knew this stuff, but apparently not. So it might be quite a good idea for you guys to check it out. And if you can, drop some coin for Anthony Hall on his buymeacoffee.com fan support platform, because he deserves it, I think. I think that's a good way of supporting him and the community as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Anything from you, Cageman?
Yeah, well, there have been a bunch of reels that have been put out from LightWave Digital on their YouTube channel. So, for example, on the 18th of July, they posted the architecture reel. So, essentially, a bunch of architecture that has been modeled, rendered, and all that jazz in Lightwave.
By different users.
Yeah. So check that one out. And I can also mention on the 31st of July, they put out the gallery reel.
Yeah, there's stills, aren't they? There's still images that they put on that gallery reel.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like animation, like camera movements or animation stuff. It's stills, but stills that are looking really, really good.
Yes, I checked it out, and it's very, very beautiful work. There's a lot of talent out there. I think it's interesting to note that a lot of the imagery that you see in that reel, a lot of people wouldn't believe it's actually Lightwave, but yeah it's actually Lightwave.
It is, and it's fantastic. So check that out. And of course, for all our stories that we bring up today, we do have links for it. So
yes,
check the description.
Absolutely.
Did you have anything more?
Yes, there was another one. There was a new one, a new reel that was put out by Lightwave, which is the product reel, which was put out on the 14th of August. So it's very recent. At the time that we're recording this, this was the latest one that they're doing. And that showed a lot of content for products. So it would seem like a lot of CAD work was done, brought into Lightwave, and then put out in this reel. And you can see how Lightwave is being used in the engineering field. And it looks really, really great how they've done it. They've got lots of exploding diagrams, if you like, of the objects themselves being reassembled, as well as just beauty shots as well in this of these different products that have been built with Lightwave. Chairs I've seen in their engines, you've seen their cars, you've seen in their product shots. So that's another reel that I saw from Lightwave appearing in our new masters have been using Lightwave as a promotion tool for the product. So it's been great to have a look at that stuff and see how Lightwave is being used in the real world. Still, to this very day, it is not dead, my friend. It is still alive and kicking.
Oh yeah.
There was also another issue, or another news story, I should say, that has most people are probably aware of. But there was an announcement in Discord from Chuck Baker a while ago, notifying us that there are issues with the Lightwave server and that the online manual and the blog are down at the minute. So unfortunately, users are unable to access those sites right now, but I do know that they are working on it and that they are well aware of the issues. But it is very frustrating, I know, for a lot of users not to have access to the blog as well as the docs particularly. But these things happen. There is a lot of stuff that they're trying to sort out at the minute. And as a result of that, they're doing their best to get them all resolved. So I guess the upshot is that we will just have to be a little bit patient with LightWave Digital while they sort these issues out. But just to let everybody know that LightWave isn't dead, it is still working. It's just that they're resolving issues. They're putting out fires at the minute. So that's it from me, I guess, with regards to the news.
Yeah. And I don't think I have anything more to add to the news section. It's time now to actually move on to the guests. So enjoy Andrew and me interviewing Deuce.
Yes, so I shall bid fare thee well and say it was fun being here filling in for Andrew. Hopefully I'll see you again soon. And thanks for the opportunity to appear on this podcast and meet everybody who's tuned in. Thank you, and take care.
Thank you, Shabazzi, for jumping in at the last minute. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's guest. And as you see in the title, it's Deuce. Many of you might only know him as the person that sort of worked at NewTek and being a beta lead guy, but there's so much more to this guy than meets the eye, as they say in Transformers language. So welcome, Deuce.
Thank you for having me.
Hello. Welcome to the chat.
So the first thing I want to go back and dig a little bit about your history. What was the pivotal moment when you found out computers and actually wanted to do graphics? Can
gosh.
you take us back to that?
Oh man, well, we're gonna go back, and boy, you're gonna have me date myself right off the bat. Oh gosh, well, what it started off with was my father and we got a Commodore 64, and it was going to be a father and son project. It was going to be a thing where, he and I both learned computers at the same time and at the same, doing the same things. And he got called away to do a movie. He was a special effects man, and he got called away to do that was For the Love of Benji in Greece, and he was gone for 5 months, I want to say. And when he came back, I had far surpassed he couldn't catch up. That was the time where, let's see, hopefully no black helicopters show up, but I started cracking video games. And so what I did was one of the first games I cracked was Castle Telengard. It only came on tape, cassette tape, and I had to get a cassette tape deck from a VIC-20 to plug into my Commodore 64 to dump it so that I could write it to disk. And while I was writing it to disk, I realized that the whole thing was written in BASIC. And so I found the area where you created your character, where the character was randomly created, and I made myself a character generator. And yeah, so I started cracking games there. And it was shortly thereafter that I started doing things like fractal math and fractal graphics. I was creating, landscapes and islands surrounded by ocean, but it was all triangles. It wasn't, it was like vector graphics, except it wasn't vector because it was, points to the screen. But I started doing things like that, and got involved with Pavre, and started doing things along the lines of, Silver and Turbo Silver, then Imagine, Videoscape. I went from the Commodore 64 to a Commodore 128 to, let's see, hit the trumpets, the Commodore Amiga.
Yeah.
And once I was into the Commodore Amiga, I got into it at the 1000. And then we had a 500 and 1000. Then I got the 2000, the 3000. Somewhere along the way there, I discovered, that I was doing all this stuff. And so I realized that doing my own coding for this stuff is like, why? There's guys that are writing these software programs that have been doing it as long as I've been alive, and they're already far advanced. Why don't I just use their tools? And so somewhere around the Amiga 4000, I got a video toaster. And when I put up the video toaster, it had this neat little button down there that said 3D. And I was like, what's that 3D button do? And that's when I discovered that the guys who had written the software that I'd been using before combined forces and created Lightwave for the video toaster. And, well, there we went. That's how I got into Lightwave. I think it's, for people my age, I think it's a very common tale. That seems to be the path that most people go.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking there, Deuce. I don't even see that drawer there, right? Me and my brother had a VIC-20, and that's where it lived, in that top drawer, and the telly was above, because obviously it plugged into a telly, not a monitor. So yes, I can slightly predate your story. With an actual VIC-20 with the tape deck beside it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
The only reason I bought it was funny. The VIC-20 I actually got from. I wanted to play this game, and the only thing that I could find, the only cassette tape I could find was for this VIC-20, and it was. I actually got it from an auction at at the end of the Saturday morning cartoon show, Benji Zax and the Alien Prince, that my dad had done the effects for, and friends of mine had done the effects. Yes, and it was that VIC-20. It was that VIC-20 that I got and had the tape deck, and that's kind of where it went.
That's mad. I remember that show.
Do you?
Yeah, yeah. I loved that show when I was a kid. I couldn't tell you what happened on it now because it was a long time ago. But I loved that show.
It was one of, if not the first Saturday morning made-for-TV shows that did literally live blue screen, live keying on set. And they were using the Newsmat system to do video keying. The whole idea of doing a made-for-TV, made-for Saturday morning in video was unheard of. And they decided to do the whole thing video so that they could do the mat, with Newsmat. And it saved them time. It saved them, all manner of things. And they were able to turn around the episodes as quickly as they could.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for us in Europe, because I do remember the video toaster being a big thing in the States, but it never actually came over to Europe. I think there were some hacks that you could apply so that it actually would work in the PAL system instead of just NTSC. But what we had in here in Europe, we had Macromedia, I think they were called. They made this software called Movie Shop, and then they had this hardware that you could sort of record and then do non-linear editing in Movie Shop on an Amiga. So they had a couple of audio boards, and then they actually built this really weird Amiga clone called the Draco, which was essentially, it was an Amiga 12 for an Amiga with either a U40 or O60 processor, and then it also had a DEC Alpha slot for future expansion, so you could actually add a DEC Alpha to it. They never came to that because by that time, the Amiga sort of died out. Commodore, they tried to. Yeah. Commodore fell in 94, right, or something like that, and this was sort of like 96, 98. And then they just, they stopped producing Amiga hardware at that point. But that was really cool hardware to do, full TV, non-linear animation editing in real time. I would love to have seen what they could have done with the DEC Alpha processor.
Oh yeah, I remember that it was. I was doing like small stuff on the Amiga, and I needed horsepower, and it was at that time that I got my first DEC Alpha, and I got into the DEC Alpha 275, and shortly thereafter, it was one of those things that I knew I needed something. I needed to paint textures. I wanted to be able to paint my textures, and I got, the tape from Ron Thornton, on spaceship texturing, and so I was like, I need Photoshop. I gotta figure out how to run Photoshop, and it wouldn't run on the DEC Alpha. So I went to a box store, Computer City, I think was the name of it, and I went into they had a section called Buyer's Remorse. And I went into the Buyer's Remorse section, and I found a computer for a Intel 486 DX266, if memory serves. And so I bought a regular PC so that I could install Photoshop. As luck would have it, it had Photoshop 2 already on it. Oh. And so I started using Photoshop 2 on a buyer's remorse computer that the thing it came with it installed on by complete accident.
Nice.
And so I had my Deck Alpha, I had my video toaster with I had the PAR, the personal animation recorder.
Yeah.
Instead of recording to a single frame tape, I recorded to the PAR, and that's how I assembled my animations. So I had a PC for my Photoshop, I had a Deck Alpha for my hard rendering, and I had my Amiga and the PAR. So I was already running three separate computer systems, and so yeah.
But did you ever? I mean, wasn't there a tool called TV Paint that was a pretty good painting software? Did you ever get to use that?
I touched it a little bit. I mean, I had D-Paint, from Electronic Arts, and I still miss the. Remember doing the palette cycle, where you could set, you could set a section of your palette to loop, and so you could set that for like water, and you could do like a waterfall or flames or things like this. Oh man, I miss that. I wish other things had that, but it's there's so many other ways to do it now. But anyway, I played with TV Paint. I had a DigiView for digitizing high-res pictures. Again, more NewTek gear.
Yeah.
And of course, eventually, got into Aura and for paint and everything else. So,
yes,
things then as anything, systems grow, programs change, companies come and go. So you start. I was actually in with with Fusion. So I got into Digital Fusion at version 2. I seem to have a thing with hooking up at version 2 of everything. But I got into Fusion 2, and that became my compositor. I mean, everyone else was picking up like After Effects and things like this, but I don't know. To me, nodes made sense. I mean, I could do layers in Photoshop. I completely understood layers. I even taught people what the heck that meant, with describing it as pieces of transparent glass, and you're painting on different pieces of glass, and depending upon how you stack them, that's how things are, on top of one another. But to me, just the flowchart feel of a node made sense to me, and I really saw the power of it. And so I've been with Fusion for forever.
So what other 3D I mean, you talked about like Imagine and stuff like that on the Amiga, and then you found Lightwave, but have there been any other sort of big, software products that you have learned over the years, 2D and 3D, that might, Maya or maybe Through Max,
I'm sitting here in front of an installation of 3D Max, Maya, Houdini. I did have Softimage for the longest time. Of course, I have Blender, Modo. One of the things that as a freelancer, you never know who you're going to be working with. And sometimes when you work with someone else, with another freelancer on a project, you're being brought in. So you kind of have to step into their studio and work with the tools that they are working with, because you might not be there when the client comes back 2 years from now, and says, oh, well, I want to revisit this and change this up a little bit. And so you kind of have to work in their packages. So I got used to working with, all of the different things, so that if someone contacted me and says, yes, we need you to do this, but we're working in Max. Okay, no problem. I've got Max. And of course, too, you get into the things where maybe you're doing a thing for a client, and the client says, I can get you models, I can get you, data, but it's in this format. And you're like, wow, okay, that format. Yes, I can convert that if I take it through Polytrans into Max, and I can spit out that, and I can, and that. So, you get used to having, how to walk the minefield of converting from this to that to the other, and you get somewhat at least conversant in all the different packages. You get, and really at the end of the day, a lot of times you find that it's like, oh, well, really the difference is in this package it's called a point, in this package it's called a vertex, in this is called a cluster, in this they call it a weight map, this is a polygon, this is a face, this is,
Yep.
Everything's the same. And I remember always telling people when I would be going to SIGGRAPH for NewTek all the time, people would come up to me and ask, well, why would I want to use this over something else? And I would ask them, it's not that you're going to use it over something else. You might use it with something else. And they, what do you mean? And I said, well, let me ask you this. Do you have a toolkit? Do you have a toolbox at home? Sure. Do you have an open-end box-in set? Well, yeah. You have sockets? Yeah. You have a crescent wrench? Yeah. Well, don't those all do the same thing? They tighten nuts, they tighten bolts, they loosen nuts, they loosen bolts. They all do the same thing. I was like, well, yeah, but this one might be the thing that'll only I said, exactly. There's a set, there's a point at which each one of those shines. So if you can use any of these packages where you're using what shines, so long as you can get things back and forth between them, then why not use the best thing out of this one, the best thing out of that one, the best thing out of this one, and end up with a thing at the end.
Yeah. So moving on, I know you have been working with NewTek for quite some time, but before that, you have been a freelancer, and I guess you have worked on many projects. Are there any projects that you would want to sort of talk about?
Well, I mean, if we're going to go, pre-LightWave or pre-NewTek or whatever, my father was he was an artist. He was a graphic artist. He was he worked for an ad agency as a graphic designer. He was an art hunched over a drawing board for 12, 14 hours a day. And when he started doing more work for a commercial based ad agency, he started going on to the locations. He started going on to the sets of the commercials that they were shooting. And he was finding that as the production would run into problems, I can't figure out how to make this happen. I don't know what to do here. He would step forward and fix it. He became known as, quite literally, this is, again, pre-MacGyver, but he became, the guy who could fix any problem with some rubber bands, a popsicle stick, and, a piece of chewing gum. And so he was doing that more and more. And someone one day called him a special effects man. And he was like, I'm a what? and so he started getting more and more calls for doing that kind of a thing. And that's when he also learned that he was going to be a father, and so he quit the ad agency he was with and started his own one-man agency, and started actually doing more work as an effects man than he was as an artist. And so one of the stories that I tell of my foray into the working was my dad. I had gone to my dad. I was 5 years old, and I came up to my dad and I said, "I want to buy a motorcycle." I had seen something on TV, or I'd seen some neighborhood kids or whatever on a little mini bike, and I told him, I said, "Dad, I want a motorcycle." And my dad said, he says, "Well, you can have one when you can buy it with your own money." And he, walked away thinking he was pretty smug. He's like, "Okay, well, I put that off for a few years." Well, as it turned out, there was a company that was putting together a movie called The Pyramid, and he was slated to help and do some of the effects on the show, and we made breakaway glass here at the house in our shop. So I had grown up around breakaway glass, how it was made, what it was, this, that, and the other. And there was a scene in this movie that a kid, roughly 5 years old, the school bus gets broadsided by a drunk driver. Or no, it wasn't a drunk driver. The driver had a cardiac event, heart attack.
Oh, okay.
Broadsides the bus, and the bus gets knocked off of a cliff, and it rolls down the cliff, and we want to see kids, flopping around inside the bus, and one of them goes out a window and gets crushed. And, then the aftermath. And the company was wanting to know if anyone knew of any kids that could do this. And my dad said, "Well, I know one kid who has grown up around breakaways, but I don't know if he'll do it." And so he came to me and he says, "There's this, the show I'm working on." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, they need a kid, and they need a kid to go out this breakaway glass." And I said, "Oh." And Dad says, "You think I said, "How much does it pay?" I'm 5. And I said, "How much does this pay?" And my dad says, "Well, for that, you probably get $300. And I said, "Is that much?" Again, you realize I'm 5. I don't know how much $300 is. And he says, "Well, for a little fellow like you, $300 doing that, that's quite a bit of money." And I said, "Is it enough to buy a motorcycle?" Dad said, "Oh, God." "Oh, I've been had." And he says, "Yeah, we could probably get you a used one for that." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And so at 5 years old, I got credit as stunt kid for The Pyramid, and that started my foray into the movies. At the age of 10, I got my first credit as an effects guy on a show called Seguin, Seguin, I think it. And it was the story of Juan Seguin, who was the guy who went to try to get help at the Alamo, the Battle of the Alamo, when people were coming up. He was the one who's like, "Crap, I'm going to go get help," and ran off. maybe he just ran off. I don't know. But he was ostensibly going to get help. And so I helped Dad do the effects on that, and I got my first effects credit at 10. And that just, kind of did the ball rolling. Every summer break from school, I would work on films with Dad. And, we did some noteworthies. We did some, I actually helped. I didn't work on the show, but I helped prep it. I helped to do some of the gag research for Flight of the Navigator. And Dad was the one who actually had the crane built to actually fly the UFO in that show. And let's see, we did Lonesome Dove. We were actually nominated for an Emmy for the effects on that show. And there's one scene in particular that I live down every day. It's the water moccasin attack. I'm the one who actually did the. If you're familiar with the show, there's a freeze frame of the water moccasin attacking a kid, and I was puppeteering the snake. Then we started, other shows, other projects here and there of anything of noteworthy. We then got on doing the effects for Walker, Texas Ranger, and did that for a number of years. And even during that, I kind of turned a little, and there was a particular character, Trevette, who was like he was the computer guy. He was the guy who was like, okay, well, we have to find the girlfriend of this drug dealer who we just, it's like, okay, well, she lives at so-and-so and so-and-so, and and known associates are this, that, and so I did all the on-screen graphics. And you actually reminded me, Macromedia was the company that made a lot of the software that I used to do all the on-screen graphics for Walker, Texas Ranger, because I could code little, regardless of what keys you hit, it'll actually type in the right thing. And then while I was doing Walker, we were trying to do more and more, with Lightwave and doing things, and we started doing legal presentations, legal things, legal reconstructions, and patent infringements, and here's how this system works, and here's how this system works. Look, aren't they similar? Yeah, he violated our patent, kind of a thing. And then one fateful Friday, I'm at home, and I get a call from a friend, and he says, "You use Lightwave, right?" And I said, "Yeah." I'm still working Walker, and he says, "Well, have you ever used Project Messiah?" And I said, "Well, I've got it. I own it." And he says, "Have you ever used it?" And I said, "Sure. I've loaded the demo scenes a couple of times." And he says, "Well, I might have someone call you, and we'll see what develops." And I said, "Okay, cool." So as soon as I hung up, like 3 hours later, I get a call. It says, "Yeah, we just talked to so and so." It says, "I understand you know how to use Project Messiah." And I said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "We want to send you 2 test scenes. What we want you to do is we want you to rig this." And I said, "Okay, what are they?" And he says, "Well, there's this one that's going to be this hose-looking thing. What we want to do is we want to be able to pose either end independently, position it, bend it, twist it, but not have it collapse. We don't want the hose to collapse." And I said, "Okay." The other is just a pair of legs. We just need a pair of legs rigged for like doing walk cycles, kicks, punch, whatever. I said, "Okay. When do you want to have this by?" He says, "Well, it's Friday, 5 o'clock. We'll give you the weekend. Let's see what you got for Monday." I said, "Okay." So I get the files. Saturday, I learned how to use Messiah. Sunday, by noon, I had the things rigged and sent off. And Tuesday, I started work as an animation technical director on Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius.
That's so cool. That one was Oscar nominated as well, right?
Yes, I believe it was. And so I was working actually the show and helping do, and I come to learn that animation technical director sounds so I was a rigger. All I did was rig stuff. But it sounds so much cooler to say animation technical director. So it's like, yeah, that's another thing you put on your business card. But I was rigging things for the show, and while they were also doing interstitials, they were doing a thing for Nickelodeon that was playing as like little clips, little pieces to gain interest, so that when the movie came out, that there would be a little bit of knowledge of what the heck this is all about. But I was actually working Jimmy Neutron at the same time I was working at doing just on-screen graphics for the Walker, Texas Ranger spinoff Sons of Thunder. So as it worked out, I would work 4 days on Jimmy and then 1 day on Sons of Thunder, which was the day that they go on stage. And so I was kind of juggling both at the same time. And that was a hoot. That was I met a lot of people, and it was funny too. That was, oh man, I'm gonna pull a name out of the hat. I'm gonna back up a few years. Back when we were doing things, on the internet, and I don't remember where or how, but I got wind that they were looking for modelers to work on Starship Troopers, the animated show. And they were using LightWave. And they said, if you want to work with us, send us examples. And I was like, okay. So I sent some stuff that I had, thinking, I'm going to get laughed out of the thing. But I sent 2 or 3 things, and I get this email back, and it's like, hey, you got anything else? And I'm like, well, yeah. How about this? So I send more stuff. Okay. Got any more? Okay. And send him some more stuff. And he's like, okay, I need to know something. What if I asked you to be in Valencia, California tomorrow to start work at 8:00? And I'm like, whoa, wait, what? I was still at this time I was still working Walker, and I said, I don't know that I can do that. I mean, and he says, well, it's a small industry. Keep my name handy. You've got it. I think that we could do something. And if it's not this project, who knows? It might be another one. And I said, okay, well. He says, my name's Dave. Just, keep us in mind. And I was like, all right, fine. So fast forward, I get, hired on as animation TD on Jimmy Neutron. And I'm being led through DNA Studios. It's like, okay, here's the art department. Here's where the modelers are. Here's this layout. And here's compositing. And they were using Fusion. And I said, they says, yeah, and this is our head compositor, Dave. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And he turns around, looks at me, and he says, you're Deuce, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And I said, and you're Dave Adams. And he says, I sure am. And I was like, oh my gosh, you almost hired me on Starship Troopers. And so that's where Lightwave Dave and I really solidified our friendship. And I think about him often.
Where did you intersect with NewTek then?
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually kind of a funny story in and of itself. I was just here at home doing things using Lightwave, and we were up into the LightWave 6 era, I think it was. And, owing to my roots of being an old hacker at heart, I haunt a few crack boards and things and, see what's out there. It's funny. I actually sometimes learn of a software update from the crack board faster than I do from the company that makes the software. But I saw, oh my gosh, here's a crack for Lightwave. And so I just out of curiosity, I downloaded it and I looked at it close, and I saw, because I was curious. I was like, well, this hasn't really been out for like 2 or 3 days. I think they announced. How on earth can this crack be out so fast? And so I looked at it, and I looked at it really, really close, and I noticed that it actually had it had it was like a tag or something on it that said Mag Rabbit. And I was like, wait a minute. Because I had met a couple of guys that worked at NewTek, I knew that Mag Rabbit was the company that NewTek used for their mass duplication of all their software.
Ah.
And so I turned around and called NewTek and I said, you need this is bad. Someone either at MagRabbit or someone, who's communicating something. This last crack, it still has MagRabbit as part of its, thing. And so they were like, wow, thanks. And through that, they kind of got to know me. And then in 2001, SIGGRAPH was held in San Antonio, Texas. Now, I live in Dallas, Texas, which is only like a 3.5-hour drive from San Antonio. And so NewTek knew, okay, this is a big thing, this is a deal. So they called me up and said, hey, if we paid for your ticket to SIGGRAPH, do you think you'd come down and be a demo artist for us? And I said, oh, okay. And they said, tell you what, we'll pay you in product. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I'm like, what does that mean? He said, well, what we'll do is we'll give you 7 boxes of LightWave and 7 boxes of Aura if you come down and be a demo guy for the run of SIGGRAPH. Okay. I was like, I get to come and play with LightWave and NewTek at SIGGRAPH. I'd never been to SIGGRAPH before. And so I got down there and did that, and that's where I met William Vaughn.
Oh, yeah.
And so he and I got together, and, we kind of struck up a real fast friendship and all. And God, I met, I believe, I want to say that's also where I met Chris Stewart of Flay.com history.
Oh, okay.
And so, I met all kinds of guys. And so when that finished and I came back up to Dallas, I get this call from William, and he says, hey, we're looking at making a little bit some changes in the LightWave team and in LightWave development. How would you like to be the beta guy? And I'm like, what does that mean? What do you mean? What is this? And he says, well, I know that you've got a little coding background. I said, yeah. And he says, I know that you're a LightWave user. I said, yeah. He says, you're perfect for being a bridge between the users and the developers, because you can kind of talk developer and you certainly can talk user. So having someone kind of interpret, it's like, this is what the users want, but yeah, I know that here's the difficulties, but if we did this, maybe, that could suffice. And he says, you're perfect for this. I said, oh, that sounds great. And so that's how I got hired on as the LightWave beta manager.
And this was back when was this? Was it 2002?
Well, I'll help you. I'll help you because my first day, I log on. I'm like, hi, I'm Deuce. I'm going to be the new beta guy. And it's like, quite literally, I walked into a full-on high school cafeteria food fight. Things were being thrown everywhere. Insults, names, dispersions upon lineage, people, thinking that, have proof that their parents weren't married when they were born. And as it turns out, that was the day that the main team left to create Modo.
Okay.
And I was like, did I just sign up for something bad? but as it turns, we were able to pull everything together, and that was LightWave 7 was what I was there for the release of. So that's where I kind of got into it. I got into it at around LightWave 7. So I saw 7, 8, 9. I saw everything around core and 10 and 11, 11.5, up, everything up through 2020 and 2020.0.3. And, that's where it currently is.
For you to have been sort of involved with LightWave for that long time as both a user, but also lately also as someone that actually works with the software and the developers and the customers, it must have been very hard for you when VizRT sort of pulled the plug.
I will say this. I didn't realize how much I didn't realize how much it hurt until really when LightWave Digital Limited and Andy. I mean, we'd been talking ever since, but when we really got the go and we really knew that okay, we've started here. This is it. I didn't realize it, but I had actually come out of probably about a 3.5-year depression. Like I say, it was one of those things I didn't know, but once I started communicating again with people, with LightWave users, and getting the old questions, I can't get LightWave to run. I don't know how to use my license key. I don't understand why that, and I'm starting to help people again. It's like, oh my gosh, I really missed this. And I didn't know how much I did.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things also that is sort of now we're starting to get more into the LightWave part of this, there's been a lot of talk about GPU versus CPU rendering and stuff like that. And one of the things that I feel a little bit limited to when it comes to LightWave is that there's no proper render layering system. And I know that you cannot talk about anything that you plan or anything like that, but I used Janus a lot in the past. That was essentially the plugin that allowed us to use LightWave for a lot of the productions that we did at Massive. So, and now looking at LightWave 2020.03, it has all this nice AOV stuff, and you can create your own custom AOVs and all that stuff. But what it really is missing is a render layering system, so you can bring out different paths to the background by itself. This should be unseen by camera in that render pass and stuff like that. And any sort of thoughts on that?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, it's long been my, I learned early on, even when I was just doing stuff by myself back, this was like in late 90s when I was working with things, just personal projects, crap. It's like I think it's funny as I have communicated with other users. All Americans, when they first get LightWave, the first thing they have to do is they have to create a spaceship. I mean, that's what we do. We create a spaceship. I blame George Lucas, but anyway, so we create a spaceship. Japanese, they create a girl. I don't quite get the correlation, but it's really kind of wild. I mean, the first thing they do is they create a teenage girl in LightWave, and manga babes. But anyway, so I'm making my own spaceship, and I textured it, Ron Thornton style, did the whole thing. This was back at that point, the Dreadhull, .tga, putting on the things, and I created a volumetric nebula in the background, and stars and the whole thing. And I hit render, and I was like, wow, this is going to take like 3 days to render this? Oh, crap. And I'm like, okay, well, hang on. So I take my scene and I remove my spaceship. I remove the stars. I realize that my nebula is not moving. So I render just it. Okay, well, that rendered in like 10 minutes. Okay, great. Well, that's done. So now let's bring in the spaceship. Okay, that's rendering fast. All right, so let's put the volumetric engines on. Oh, now, okay. So, well, let's turn everything off but just the volumetric. Oh, now that renders fast. And so I reduced something that was going to take 3 days a frame to render down to an amalgamation combined of like 12 minutes. And I was like, okay, layers. We work in layers from now on. And so, I totally get you that, there needs to be a system, an ease, and of course you have to approach everything, let's go ahead and create a word. You have to make sure that you're working in the LightWave style. It has to be wavy. You have to do it the wavy way. Yeah, and so, I totally get it, because I have told many people when they first buy LightWave, they're like, okay, hey, I've got LightWave. Is there anything else I need? Any plugins? I'm like, yeah, do you have Photoshop? You're going to need that, or GIMP, something. You're going to need a photo thing. Do you have access to After Effects or Fusion or something? You're going to need a compositor. And they're like, wow, really? Why? And I said, yeah, layers. You're going to want to work in layers, and you're going to do it. So, I totally get that. I totally get, the need for a, and again, as you say, we've got the buffers. They're kind of there. They're a little not all that wavy. They're kind of confusing. Some of them, you kind of find yourself running to a glossary in order to really understand what the heck it's even talking about. But, I get it. I get it. And I totally, I'm on board with it. But again, I think, that's one of those things that it's like the system's there and the system kind of works. Yeah, it's clunky, but it works. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and we'll keep clunky around for a little bit longer until we can really make it wavy. But I totally am on board, and I get it, because like I say, my first foray, I quickly learned to work in layers. Not only work in layers, but render to frames. Do not render to an AVI. do not render straight to a film. No. Because as soon as you do that, you're going to get a power twitch and your computer's going to go off. And then you got to start all over again. Yeah, no. We render to frames and we work in layers. Yes, that's our mantra.
This is kind of interesting subject as well, because we were talking to Lewis in the previous episode, and we sort of talked a little bit about FPrime, and the magic with FPrime was that it was sort of rendering and then saving states for each frame, so you could continue. And there's no other render engine out there that does that, right? It is worldly magic.
Yeah, this iterative render where you get a fast look, so you know whether or not you're on the right track. And then you can go back, and it's like, okay, I let this run for 10 minutes. It got me what I needed to show the client. The client is happy. Okay, great. Now let me go back and start off where I was and let it run for another hour and get really nice and pretty. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And I know that a lot of people want that FPrime functionality, either in GPU or CPU renderer, because there's a lot of times that, you just want to be able to turn around something really damn fast to get a sense of movement, to get a sense of camera, to get a sense of timing. But you know, I don't need it to be absolutely perfect. I just need it fast. And then if I can then build upon that after the fact, oh my gosh, you know, then I haven't lost that time that I used to make my fast turnaround. I'm just building on top of that. That's great. So yeah, totally. A lot of people want that, and I know a lot of people are really hoping for that to make a return.
Yeah, and one thing also that I'm sort of missing a little bit in the latest versions of LightWave, since you actually changed the render engine so much, is the quick shade render thing.
Yes, yeah, quick shade.
I mean, that was like a couple of seconds per frame, and you could do previews with it really fast.
Well, I know too that there's a lot of things. You know, there are. You'd have to call it, you know, domino effect.
Okay.
I remember one particular thing that we decided we were going to go in and we were going to fix some issues. We were going to fix some bugs. And as we got into certain areas, we found, oh my gosh, here's this one bug that's been there forever. And it's actually hampering us to, you know, fix other things that users everywhere want us to fix. And so we did, okay, well, watch this. We fixed that bug, and it allows us to fix this other stuff. Great, here's a release. And oh my gosh, did I get kickback from testers at key accounts because they had built their entire pipeline around that bug. And so now if I don't figure a way to put that bug back, then their whole world is going to absolutely collapse.
Wow.
And so, you know, it's one of those kind of things that when we made the change of the render engine, was one of those things that we hadn't fully understood the ramifications of cell shade plugins.
Oh, yeah.
And the cell shade plugins really only work in like the 2015 render engine. And so what happened is that we essentially froze Japan at 2015.
Yep.
So now, you know, with our new you know, mantra and everything, we're really looking at, you know, what can we do? How can we bring some of the things back? I know that one of the things that came back because of Japan in 2020 was the ambient light. You know, we were like, well, you know, if we've got this environment light and we've got this other, why do we need an ambient light? And as it turns out, it's like part of the workflow in anime.
Oh, yeah.
And they absolutely needed it back. And so it's like, okay, so how can we bring it back and make it an option, make it something you turn? And so, you know, had to look at it. So there's a lot of things that, you know, some of the history of some decisions are having to be, you know, reevaluated. I know that a lot of us wanted to try to see what we could do as far as making the render engine itself a plugin. If it became like a plugin class, then what we could do is we could have the 2020 engine as a plugin. We could have the 2015 engine as a plugin. We could have Mental Ray as a plugin. We could have, you know, whatever as a plugin. You know, it would open up another. You could have Cycles as a plugin. You know, all of these different Eevee as a plugin. You know, this kind of a thing. So I mean, we're investigating all this. There's nothing, you know, hard set in stone certainly, but it is one of those things that when you bring everyone back, or everyone that's come back, that could come back, and you look at how many of us on the new team are users and are aware of these things. And, you know, you look at them with the idea of, okay, well, you know, we don't have the same constraints that we had before.
Yeah.
Let's investigate. Let's look at things. Let's see what we can do. And I think that's partly some of the excitement that has kind of spilled over into some of the users, some of the user groups that have seen some of the things that Andy has said, that has seen some of the things that we have shared. That, you know, I mean, I'm not going to say that the decisions in the past were wrong. I think having a you know, physically based render engine was needed.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can look at some of my scenes. I can load up some of my scenes and stuff from, you know, 2015 era. I load it into 2020. Granted, I might get some errors here and there from missing plugins or whatever, and I hit render and I look at it and I go, you know what? Still looks good, but then I select all my surfaces and do a right click and say make principled, and all of a sudden it looks a hell of a lot better, like instantly. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. And of course that's, you know, that's really where you start looking at on the internet, and you start looking at like textures.com and things, and you see, oh, I can download these PBR things. Like, well, those won't work in 2015, but, you know, and everyone's, you know, there's a wealth of PBR textures out there. So there's a reason for the engine.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, it's not like, oh, the 2020 render engine was 100% failure and it was a mistake and it should never. No, it needed to. It needed to be there. It needed to, you know, but, you know, there's reasons for the other one too. It's just like having a dedicated non-photorealistic render system. You know, for like rendering crosshatch and dot pattern and, you know, gray tone and such could be useful too.
Oh yeah.
And especially when you look at it within the context of, you know, as we were kind of talking earlier about a render pass system or a layer system, you know, wouldn't it be neat to have like a deep layer that's halftone, you know, with a dot pattern, and then you could render, you know, your other layers, you know, as an additive or whatever, so that you could, you know, really make this interesting look, you know, would, you know, that would be, you know, air quotes, you know, 100% in camera, but yeah, you're doing it in layers so that you can really, you know, play with it in your compositing app. And why not have a, you know, and why not have a rudimentary compositing app in Lightwave itself? You know, I mean, everyone knows that you need to have that access. Everyone knows you need to have access to some way of compositing. If you're going to do if you're going to work with any kind of clients that are going to come back and everything is great except I hate this blue. You know, don't make me have to re-render the whole damn thing just because I got the wrong color blue. Let me just go back and tweak that one blue. So it's, you know, oh yeah, that's a better blue. All right, done. Well, here we go. You know,
exactly. Yeah, but because right now with GPU based rendering, it seems like that we don't tend to do multi-passes that much anymore. It seems to go back to this, let's do everything in camera because they are so fast. But then you have to.
But it'd be even faster. I mean, think about it. If doing a full render in GPU is fast, well then, wow, how fast would layers be?
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I've seen some renders that can take like 2 hours per frame with GPUs, right? And oh, the client changed their mind. Okay, now we need to re-render everything. But the client just wanted to change this, as I said, this blue color at this background character that we could have, you know, rendered separately. But yeah,
right.
It's. I think it's good to be able to do both. To be honest.
Oh sure. I mean, why limit yourself? You know.
Yeah.
If I want to have, you know, hot fudge and chocolate and sprinkles, then damn it, I want all three of them. You know, I want to be able to do the full thing in camera. I want to be able to do layers in camera. I want to do I want to have one of my things. I really, and I've been noodling it in my head And I know that everyone has their own hack way of doing it, but I want an animated limited region. I want my limited region handles not to be, you know, four corners. I want them to be splines. I want to be able to you know, I want to be able to follow this weird shape thing coming across my frame and just isolate it. So I don't have to render all that other crap. I just want to deal with it. But it's moving. And so if I have to, you know, do the whole frame, I want to follow it. You know, I want to, you know, traveling mat kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And I know there's hack ways of doing it, you know, parenting a plane to the camera and having it as a mat object and everything else. But, you know, that I want to get away from hacky. I want to get wavy.
Yeah, true.
You know.
In some ways, though, the way we weigh has also been a bit hacky way as well. You know, coming up with workarounds for problems and stuff like that. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Let's try to unhack stuff and make it easy to use, and the Lightwave way, which should be faster, better at lower cost, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, and just flexibility as well. You know, as you say, just how you know I want to work this way. Well, you can. Question. I've got a question. As I was listening to you, I know obviously you brought up a bunch of ideas, and this is not you making a promise for the company, but as a user, what would be your totally I'd love this feature? Not you're not promising for the company here, you know.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is that as with any user, and as with any, you know, as with anything, the thing that you want the most is what you're butting heads with at the time. You know, ask me the same thing 3 months ago, it would be something completely different than what I'm about to say now. But what I'm currently dealing with a lot is I'm doing massive amounts of instancing. And what I'm doing is I'm doing things that are like modular systems. And so I'm dealing with all of this instancing type things. And I mean, it's like instancing / geometry nodes. I mean, to borrow a vernacular from Blender and what Blender users would recognize, the geonode type thing. It's multifaceted. I mean, you know, you asked a question that kind of gets into a bunch of different things, but like number one, I find, you know, that I will have a scene that I'll have 80, 150 different instance slots scattered across 45, 50, 60 different objects. And I want to be able to have like a scene editor for my instances so that I can go in and say, well, all right, I want all of the instances that are doing boxes. I just want them to move up on the y-axis a little bit. There is no way for me to have that level of control unless I go into each individual one and say, offset y plus 3, offset y plus 3, offset y plus 3. Because if I do a copy-paste, it's going to copy everything. It's going to copy everything in that thing. And I don't want to copy everything. I just want to offset on y by 3. That's all I want to do. So I want a scene editor for instances. By the same token, one of the things that I frustrate over is, and the simplest thing to illustrate is making a fence. Let's make a fence. So let's say initially a picket fence. Let's have, a main picket, stringers, another picket, stringers, and a picket. I want a tool where I can just drag a spline down and pop, 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 pop. There's my fence. And it's following the landscape. I'm not talking about something that's flat. I'm talking about something that's following an undulating landscape.
Yep.
So straight pickets are having to target the other vertical. If I'm pulling it out, I've got a thing that will pull out to a given point. That's my length. Then it pulls out another one. If I pull out short, then it's short. You can do this in GeoNodes like that. I want that kind of thing in LightWave. I want to have this level of control in LightWave because I do things like conveyors, roller conveyors. I do fences around, architectural things. And every time I have to do something like that, I just thump my head against the desk because it's not easy. The tools are there, the pieces are there, everything is there. I don't have the level of control. Maybe there's some node math that I could do, but the problem is that usually when I do a lot of node math in instances, everything starts bogging down so bad that I just can't. I can't get the interactivity anymore. And that's one of the things too is that there's, this was a thing that we kind of did one time. Here show of virtual hands, everybody. Who has ever had a scene in LightWave that it's faster to do a Control-Alt-Delete and kill the task than it is to hit clear scene?
Yep. many times.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Why on earth is that? I think we can come up with something that might make clearing scene a little faster. I don't know what all it's doing behind the scenes, but good grief. Clear scene should be the same as end task as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I don't get that. And that, to me, that feels like something simple. But, again, I don't know. I know it's probably doing some background housekeeping that would be the same if you're like clearing an object, because if you're clearing an object, then it's going to have to look at object ID, what's referencing it, what's going to do this, what's going to do that. And okay, I might forgive it there, but clear scene? Why are you having to go through all of that just to clear it?
Yeah, true.
And seriously, so many LightWave users are like, okay, yeah, once I get over 5,000 objects, clear scene is Control-Alt-Delete and in task. I mean, that's sad in one sense of the word.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's sad, but it is also a testament to how fast LightWave starts. Because the
True.
reason why you wouldn't do that at max is it would take so long for it to open again. You'd be like, I wasted my time. So...
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. But yeah, no, totally. I totally get the launching speed because anytime someone sends me a file, I'm like, okay, time to launch Max. Load. All right, I'm going to go grab a drink. Because my goodness, Max takes a long time to load. But yeah. LightWave is comparatively, yes. And the other thing too that I like about LightWave is that you can actually do an install onto a thumb drive. That you can carry around LightWave on a stick, plug it in, and say, let me show you something. Let me plug this into your computer here. I got everything. No, don't worry about it. I'm not installing anything. I'm just going to load it right here and boom, show you on. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I remember actually. I think it was the last sort of breathing of Project Messiah, when they sold out, they sold like for a very, very low cost, and then the only thing you needed was a thumb drive, and you put everything on there, and you could bring it with you. It was super. What do you say? You don't need to install it. You just bring it with you. Yeah, it's super nice when you can do that. But I don't think I can do that with other packages. To be honest, I think they need to be installed. Certainly, Autodesk.
Yeah, there's a lot of runtime stuff that needs to be installed, but most of what Lightwave uses, it should already be on the system. So I mean, it's just kind of part of Windows.
Yeah.
Or Mac. No, I won't. If I don't mention Mac, I'll get yelled at. So.
So we've been going for some time. Just a few more questions to round this off a little bit. When it comes to the community, do you have any ideas on how we could, we as a community, but also you as developers, sort of, what do you say, keep things be positive, constructive, and engaging?
Well, I think a lot of that has to come from our side. I think there wouldn't be many people who would disagree with me if I said that I fully realized that there wasn't a lot of communication in the past. There were so many times that things would go dark. So many times things would, things would change, and there wasn't any word coming out. And this team is really trying to rewrite the book. So if from our side, if we're continuing the message, if we are continuing the communication, and you will start seeing this actually ramping up. I know that there was another video posted on YouTube from the team, like in the last couple of days, prior to this interview. So if our side can be as open and continue to be as open, then hopefully for the community to keep things positive, it's just a matter of saying, oh, you must have missed what was said yesterday. Here, this is what was said yesterday. When someone comes up and wants to start noise or anything that would be considered negative or whatnot, and I've actually seen that recently. I've seen someone, it's okay, so we did that, what's next? And someone's actually pointed out, oh, you haven't watched the YouTube video where a lot of the things you're talking about has been answered. So if the community can just help perpetuate what we are doing, providing that we're doing it, I think everything is going to work out. I think everything is going to work itself out, and it's just going to be a natural flow. It's if we go quiet again, and I really don't see that that's going to happen. I really don't. Everyone here has shown themselves to be available, open, willing to talk, even up to the point of making me have to go back and re-edit things to take things out that shouldn't have been said in the first place. But I really think that when you have your root team be users, I mean, we've been there. We know. We have seen it, and I mean, it sounds kind of funny for me to say it because it's like, well, you've been part of Lightwave for the last quarter century. Right, but I've still been a user all that time, and I can completely see it from a user standpoint. That's my thing. So, it was hard sometimes when I would see something needs to be said here, we need to say something here, and be prevented from doing it. That was some of the hardest times. Really, that was some of the hardest times. And I'm really I really don't think that that's going to happen again. I really don't.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And
But yeah, if anything, you can't get Andy to shut up, can you? Really?
No. The only thing, but that's what I think is so wonderful. I mean, when you have someone who has that infectious personality at the, I try to think of it as like, we're taking a bus ride. And, if the guy who's driving the bus is one of these guys who, keeps the door shut, keeps his head down, is just looking straight ahead, and keeps the radio on like talk radio, it's going to be a long trip and you're not going to have any fun. But if you have the guy who's up front, who's got the door open, he's got the microphone down, and he's playing his own DJ stuff through the radio, and it's fun and entertaining, and he's making you laugh, then the trip is going to be enjoyable, and it's going to feel like that the trip didn't take any time at all because it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I really feel like Andy is the kind of guy who's driving the bus, with the microphone, and he's he's pointing out things, changing anytime a commercial comes on the radio, he's on a different channel, trying to find the things that's entertaining, because no, can't have that, gotta have fun. We need to have the fun stuff on. So I really, and that's just testament to the team that we have now.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So now, if you think back about this interview, is there anything that you would want to say that we haven't really talked about, or do you feel like, yeah, this is good?
Nothing's really immediately coming to mind. I mean, I kind of touched on all the different and varied things.
Yep.
Well, if there's anything pressing, you always just have to come on again. So,
so for the last question, then, who would you want to see on this podcast?
Samantha Fox, maybe. Really, I'm trying to think here. I mean, if we're talking about someone from LightWave Digital, I would imagine Elmar might want to come on. You might get him to talk about things. There's a number of folk that that I've been longtime friends with, that are stellar artists. I mean, some of the guys like you might have Kevin Quattro on, or Evan Warham, or some of those guys. I could get you a list, but I think some of them. I've got a great Quattro joke, or not joke, but an anecdote. We've got a thing in the beta team and in the beta users that we call a particular kind. It's a species of bug that we call a Q bug, and this is because Kevin Quattro goes by Q online from time to time, and the identification of a Q bug is usually, well, there was one guy on the beta team that actually created a timer. He created a 15-minute timer.
Yes.
That whenever Kevin would come on and go, "I've got a bug," he's like, "Okay, start the timer," and it would be 15 minutes. And in that 15 minutes, usually Kevin would figure out, oh yeah, this was user error, and but so we had the Q timer, but Q bug, and my favorite Q bug was when he was working on Battlestar Galactica. And there were again, they were working in layers, as you would. And he was working on a scene that had the 3 engines of the Viper, the Colonial Viper. And this was back during the time where we had Trillion. If anyone remembers Trillion, which had ICQ, had...
oh, yeah, that one.
Oh, God, it had like 3 or 4... Yeah, AOL Messenger. It had all the different messengers in one package, and they called it Trillion. So all of a sudden, I'm sitting here working, and all of a sudden, it's like every message app I have that Q is on goes off all at once. It's like he spammed every single one of them at the same time. He's like, I have got a bug. This is mission critical. This has to be fixed now. You don't understand the level. This is killing us. It's killing us. It's going to destroy. It's going to. And I said, whoa, Kevin, stop. Hold up, buddy. What's the problem? Lens flares are not rendering. They're just not rendering. They're not there. They're just not there. They're not there. Flare, I just can't. I said, okay, calm. Send me the scene. Send me the scene. Let me take a look at it. Okay, but you don't understand. This is time critical, mission critical. We got to have this bug fixed now. It's got to fix. It's just, oh my God. And I'm like, okay, send me the scene. So he sends me the scene, and I see. It's a null, 3 other nulls in the triangle pattern of the Viper, engines, distant lights, flares, things. And I'm looking at it, and I said, Kevin, scrubbing it. It's working fine here. Oh, expletive. I mean, it's like, F. I'm like, holy crap, dude. Stop. What I said, the scene you sent me has 5 nulls and 3 lights. Is there anything in addition that you didn't send me?
I think I know what.
The light's behind the matte object. Sorry about that.
And so it's just blocking it because he's got like turn off lens flares behind object.
Right. And he was like, oh, okay. So one SIGGRAPH, it was a SIGGRAPH in LA, and we had managed to get the entire development crew to SIGGRAPH. It was one of the rare times that we could get everyone there. So we went to the Zoic party. We went to the party at Zoic, and so we get there. And if you've ever seen Big Bang Theory, seriously, the developers at a party are like, Leonard Hofstadter and the guys. They just are over in a corner, drinking their drinks and watching the party from a distance. And so I go out and I'm finding people and meet people that I know and everything. And I ran across Kevin. I'm like, oh, Kevin, hey, Kevin, come here. He's like, oh, hey, Deuce, what's up? And I said, I got someone I want you to meet. And he's like, really? Who? And I said, no, it's a surprise. It's a surprise. So I lead him through the party back to an area. And, here's the entire development crew. And I said, Kevin? He says, yeah. And I said, I'd like you to meet everybody. And he's like, well, who are these guys? I said, these are the developers of LightWave. And he says, they're going to beat me up. I said, no, they're not. And every one of them were like, all at once. And it was so hilarious. He's like, they're going to beat me up. Because we just had so many bug reports from him that's like, yep, another Q bug. Sorry about that. Yep, another Q bug. Should have taken the 15-minute timer. So.
Thank you so much, Deuce, for being a guest here tonight on this show. I'm very much looking forward to what you guys will do with LightWave going forward. And as you said, hopefully you guys can keep the community, feed them with some information here and there. So
I knew when we took over that we should try to do something within the first 6 months, just to put naysayers back into their chairs, because you can't come forward and say LightWave is back, LightWave lives again, and not deliver on something. You got to deliver on something.
Yep.
And so we all know that's that onus is upon us, and we've got the time, we've got the plan, we just need to execute. And so far, it's starting to look like we're executing.
That sounds so great. Again, huge thank you for joining this podcast. And again, I'm looking forward to whatever you guys are doing, and if I can help in some way, I will do, of course.
Absolutely.
Likewise, I'll be there. Nitpicking, probably.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's no shortage of critics.
Thank you all for watching and listening to this month's episode. Be sure to tune in so that you don't miss out on all the goodies we have for you. In the meantime, if you have any news stories you'd like us to know about, you can reach us in the comments section or send an email to lightwavedigest@gmail.com with the word news in the subject line. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, share and comment so that we know how well we are reaching and performing for you guys out there. Your engagement is really important to us, so thanks in advance for your support. So, until next month, remember to always light the wave. We will be back next month with episode 4.